process. Keep in mind that all biotech companies need to go through a rigorous FDA approval process, and this is great from a trading perspective because it introduces multiple predefined dates that can act as catalysts for the stock. Lucid MS is still early in the approval process, which means that there are multiple key steps that are yet to come. The current competition is also virtually non-existent given that no known cure exists at this point. Keep in mind that Lucid MS is not the only product that this company is currently brewing up. They're also working on a functional beverage with the intent of providing relief from the inebriation and accelerating alcohol metabolism, leading to reduced breath alcohol concentration. Why is this a big deal? Well, according to NSDUH, a whopping 84.9% of adults reported drinking at some point in their lives. This could mean a massive customer base given that the US population sits around 340 million people. All of this, of course, is theoretical, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen or if they're even going to get approved. But we have to draw meaningful conclusions based on the information that sits in front of us. Now let's talk about the stock. This stock was formerly ticker symbol HUGE and was called FSD Pharma, and with that stock you'd have many periods where you get these big pops on catalysts with lots of spikeability, lots of opportunity for traders. But at the same time, since changing tickers and overall company name, the stock had bottomed at around $3.59 and has since been building pretty damn consistent day-over-day momentum. Will this momentum continue? Will a catalyst come to reinvigorate its spikeability? Well, for starters, they do have multiple products and trials with multiple phases of potential catalysts down the road. Both of these products have a number of different steps coming in their futures that can result in huge spiking. But anyways, what are some of the core reasons to start your due diligence on the stock? Well, for starters, I mean, they've got a world-class pipeline focused on potentially multi-billion-dollar markets and unmet needs. They've got a lot of big names connected to them. Leading the unbuzzed line, you have John Duffy. He spent over 22 years at Coca-Cola, and his last role was Vice President of National Sales. You got to be really good at marketing and selling to be the Vice President of National Sales for Coca-Cola. You also have Kevin Harrington, who was a shark on Shark Tank. He's on the team there at a high-ranking position. And you have some other leadership that is also very well regarded and very experienced. In terms of analyst coverage, Goldman Small Cap Research said, quote, its lead biopharmaceutical candidate to treat MS, Lucid MS, has generated encouraging interim data results in its phase 1 clinical trial. Given unique characteristics such as mechanism of action and the ability to potentially reduce myelin degradation, the orally administered Lucid MS could ultimately receive FDA approval in 2027. In terms of Unbuzz, they said Unbuzz could be the elixir society has been seeking to reduce the effects of alcohol assumptions. This new functional beverage seeks to provide relief from inebriation and accelerate alcohol metabolism, leading to reduced breath alcohol concentration and a faster path to sobriety. The active ingredients in Unbuzzed proprietary natural ingredients-based formula helps restore mental alertness post-alcohol consumption in an average of about 15 to 30 minutes. Small group research indicates Unbuzzed reduced BRAC faster than what the body would do naturally. Clinical trials are being planned for further validation. So anyways, that is the rundown on this stock. Make sure to put QNTM on your radar as soon as possible, and we will see you in the next video. Have a good rest of your day. Clinical trials are being planned for further validation. So anyways, that is the rundown on this stock. Make sure to put QNTM.
Right now, are you supposed to be bearish It was NVIDIA's earnings that was going to be the catalyst that took the markets higher in 2024, and they absolutely came out and crushed it with their earnings. They had a year-over-year revenue beat of 122%. Quarter over quarter, they were up 15%, and yet before we even got to the news, institutional money began to sell out of their position. We got the news and the stock dumped. It went down near 8 to 9% after hours. It recovered today, but towards the end of the day, it turned south again. Now today, I'm going to go over a little bit of what happened with NVIDIA's earnings and what may be the cause of that sell-off. But more important than that, we played it perfectly on the Stocks with Josh Discord. I notified everybody when I had raised my stop loss, and I notified everybody when I was out of my shares and out of my options, locking in the absolute majority of the profit well before earnings came. Now, I got some criticism on my YouTube page yesterday that I had been bullish Monday and Tuesday, but then on Wednesday, I turned bearish. Well, first of all, we're going to look at both sides of the case. We've got to be looking at both sides of the case, the bull case and the bear case, and I'm going to review those with you guys again today so you can have a better handle on what I'm expecting. But I also want to be clear about NVIDIA. NVIDIA was bullish on Monday. NVIDIA was bullish on Tuesday. And NVIDIA was bullish Wednesday morning after it continued to bounce off of 124 and push up against 131. But at some point, you've either got to raise your stop loss or you have to enter a hedge. Those were my two decisions. I either was going to load up on puts or I was going to raise my stop loss, and I decided to lower my risk scenario by simply raising my stop loss and accepting the fact that I got kicked out. You guys got to remember, when this thing was $117, I saw people taking profit left and right. I didn't. I held and told everybody we would get to 131, which we did. But there came a point after 124 had been hit too many times that it was time for me to lock in the gains that I had made. Now, what is this video about? Are we talking about the past? Are we talking about the present or the future? Well, we're going to talk about the present and we're going to talk about the future. And I'm going to let you know where I think NVIDIA is going to go. Where is the next load up zone according to my analysis of the charts? I crushed it on NVIDIA play here this last month, and I want to do it again. There's no guarantee that I will do it again, but I'm going to tell you my plan because I've already spent time on the charts, and I'm going to tell you where I'm going to buy and what I think will happen with NVIDIA in the coming days. This is the Stocks with Josh show. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for hitting the like. Hit the like and subscribe if you need help trading these choppy markets. I want to tell you guys we're going to start the 3K to 10K challenge in the ChartGoat University Stocks with Josh Discord. And what this is going to be about, it's about making money, but more importantly, it's about my 4 disciplines. I'm going to practice and show you guys using a stop loss, trading the trend, controlling position size, which is going to be one of the biggest factors. And here's my concern, that people are going to come along and say, well, I'm going to follow Josh's trades, but I'm not going to follow his game plan nor his disciplines. And I had that in the Discord this last week on a play that I entered. I spent $80 on the play and I bought 2 call options that didn't take off. It was a starter position. Somebody else bought $60,000 in. So I bought $100. They bought $60,000. I lost a little bit of money. They lost fortune. Now, I don't mean to put anybody on blast, but I'm talking about this 3K to 10K challenge. And the biggest part of the challenge is if you have lost money this week and NVIDIA was not a huge win for you, then you've got to re-examine what you're doing. And here's an opportunity to start over, to reset, and to employ trade disciplines that have been working for me and helping me be a consistent winner on Wall Street. And you can follow along while I explain them in live trades, guys. Trades that I'm going to be posting in the Discord. It's going to be for all tiers, but there might be more education in the higher tiers. There will be more education in the higher tiers. If you want to be part of that, I'm going to leave a link in the top pinned comment for the Stocks with Josh Discord. I also want to remind you that I'm dropping micro classes there to help you learn how to chart so you can have a better strategy, as well as you can trade along me and the Crown Traders. SPY Lord had a 116% win on the SPY today. on shorting it near the afternoon, and that was a beautiful win. Those are the types of wins that we're getting over there. And so if you're having trouble trading these choppy markets, come over there and check it out. So in my last video, I recapped 3 bearish indicators that everybody needed to be paying attention to. And this is for the bears because we need to be keeping an eye on where are we at in these markets right now. Well, I'm just going to recap. First indicator, Warren Buffett, bearish indicator, where the total value of all stocks is right now 202% above the GDP. This simply is an imbalance, and we are higher now than we were when the markets fell apart in 2021. And so we have a lot of reason to be concerned. Does it mean that crash tomorrow? No, it doesn't. But you need to be aware of it. And it doesn't mean that I've gone from being bullish to bearish. I'm wanting you to have a big picture view. The second one is the inverted yield curve that you've been hearing about really for the last 2 years. It's finally uninverted. What does that mean? It means that recession is much closer. After it completely uninverts, that's when you are at recession's door, right? And it's knocking. So you guys need to be aware of it. But the markets can still climb. And so you need to have a strategy. You don't want to load up on puts beforehand, because if this market goes up for another 30 days, you'll find yourself panicking and selling and then getting back into calls only to have the market reverse and sell those. So we've got to have a big picture view and a micro view, a macro and a micro view. The third signal was the Son rule, which basically says when unemployment spikes by 0.5% in 1 month over the 12-month average, it means that 100% of the time when that has happened, that the next thing the market's going to do in the next 12 months is go into a recession. So we can't time the market. The reason why I shared those 3 bearish indicators yesterday is, one, I was out of my NVIDIA position because I was forced to sell because of weakness. That was already a bad sign, because I've been saying for a long time that NVIDIA was the big catalyst that could push the markets higher. And when that fell apart, well, then it was time to look more carefully at the bearish narrative. Now, I will tell you that right now, a lot of big tech stocks were pointing down going into close. And I think the market does have some room down, and we might just continue down until we get halfway between now and that first Fed cut. The markets might recover a little bit and rally on the rate cut. Why would the markets rally on the rate cut? Well, the markets would be believing that the Fed is actually going to produce a soft landing, that he's being responsive. They'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and they'll wait for data to come out in Q3, as well as the unemployment data, which will become more important as each day goes. Because if unemployment continues to go down, right, and inflation goes down, well, then everybody's going to be cheering the Fed. One question you might ask is, has a Fed ever produced a soft landing? Well, yes. In the last 100 years, we've had 3. One in 1965, 1984, and 1995. They're not really common, but someone might say that we're well past due for one. And so people have been comparing the current market a lot to the 70s and 80s. Very possible that the Fed could produce a soft landing. The market might give him the benefit of the doubt. When he gives that first cut, the market could interpret that as bullish and go back on a rally, looking at other factors. However, it's going to be contingent on data that we get in September and October that's going to tell us that maybe he didn't act quick enough or didn't cut deep enough, and that's where your panic selling could occur. So I will tell you that you need to have a plan on big tech, because big tech has all hit all-time highs, and we do have some pretty bearish indicators going on right now. Mostly, I expect the markets to continue to move down this week and largely sideways the closer we get to that Fed cut. All right, let's talk a little bit more about NVIDIA today. If you look at the heat map this morning, NVIDIA stuck out when most things were turning green. NVIDIA was bright red, and of course it ended the day bright red. Not a good direction on NVIDIA. But here's the bottom line. NVIDIA did very well, and I'm going to make a case for you as to why I'm going to buy NVIDIA when it pulls back to a level I'm going to show you in the chart. So I'm going to give you my buy zones. I've already put my limit orders in, and I'm going to make a case for you as to why I want to be an NVIDIA owner and why I want to make sure that I catch the next potential bottom for NVIDIA. Because one, these guys are right now in a league of their own on Wall Street. They are the top performing big tech, big market cap company in the world. These guys crushed earnings. As I said, they beat on revenue. They were up 122% year over year, 15% quarter over quarter. Their data center revenue was a big part of that. It jumped. Gross profits were $22 billion and gross margin was 75%. Net profit was $16.7 billion, which was up 177% year over year and up 12% quarter over quarter. Those are the type of earnings that companies dream of. When you compare NVIDIA's profit margins to its peers, that's why I say that it's in a league of its own. So these guys have a net profit of 57%. And the next closest company to have that type of profit level would be Microsoft, but far less at 34%. Google under 30 at 28%. Apple's net margin, which is supposed to be the world-class, largest market cap, best run company in the world, with a net margin of 25%. So the bottom line is that these guys crushed it and their performance is incredible. But there were a couple problems. I'm going to go over that with you guys here. And then you've got Tesla. I got to shout them out. They're under 20%, somewhere between 17 to 19% net margin. You can only imagine what Elon would do if he could get up into that higher echelon of net profits, what he could accomplish with his company. We've got great leadership of NVIDIA, and these guys are going to do great things with all that money. And the icing on the cake was, without a doubt, the fact that they were going to do a $50 billion share buyback. And you guys know that's the big news right now. And I think that some of you are underestimating why that's so important and how it could cause the price of the stock, which I did mention in yesterday's video, had a very high valuation and could be interpreted as too expensive. But I want to kind of compare it to Apple right now, which also has had declining sales for the last couple of years, but the stock price has reached all-time highs and even peaked here in the last couple months. We've hit all-time highs. How is that possible? Well, I noticed something in the charts. You guys remember when Apple was a buy, it came up off of its lows around 165 and went 170, 180, 190, 200, but momentum was really slowing down. But as soon as it crossed over 200, momentum went through the roof. And it really began to push up. And they also buy shares, right? And they buy them at the right moment in time. And so we could easily see NVIDIA recover on low momentum. And when we get back towards the top, NVIDIA could strategically pump up the share price by how they approach this buyback. And so it's a big deal. Now, what was the problem with the earnings that Wall Street said they didn't like? Well, there was the slowing of momentum of growth. And so even though it was their most profitable quarter, the fact is that the momentum of increase was diminishing, not increasing. And so that is what made the big difference. And so we don't know at that point if the momentum is on decline, whether it will spike up again or whether it will continue to decline. And if it's going to continue to decline, well, then some of that forward PE has got to be taken off the table. And so that's one of the problems with the stock right now. But it's going to be quarter by quarter. And largely, as we get closer to the bottom of the range, I believe that Wall Street wants to be in NVIDIA. New investors want to be in the best, fastest, most exciting growth stock in the world, and a stock that's also being supported by the company itself that's buying the shares. People are going to want to be in it. So perhaps we'll see the same thing that we saw with Apple. I don't know. But I'm going to give you guys the low that I'm looking to buy back into NVIDIA today was the delay of their Blackwell system. And I know that there are some analysts that said that that wasn't a big part of the problem, but it was. The delay in that system has absolutely affected their revenue. And when it begins to go online, which has largely been pushed back to Q4, but when those sales really ramp up in Q4, then we're going to see potentially the momentum of revenue begin to pick back up. And again, you want to remember, Wall Street's not going to wait until December to buy. They're going to wait for the dip, and they're going to get back in and get prepared for that good news in Q3 and Q4. At the meantime, I think it's going down, and I'm going to show you in the charts where my buy orders are, so let's go check that out. All right, so in the charts, it's very clear that NVIDIA was consolidating and pushing up against resistance. It was bullish from last Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It was bullish until mid-Wednesday. Price began to collapse, giving us the indication that we were going down and not up. This morning was a confirmation of that. There was a continuation back to the downside rather than volume causing a reversal and a move back above these highs. We continue to the downside. So at this point, I would say that we have a triple top going. We have a bullish descending channel at hand. The blue line is the 50 SMA, which has been broken, which is a confirmation of a continued downturn. And right now, I believe that we will likely continue in this downturn until we come back and find support on my channel, right? And I think that that's largely going to be between 112 and 109. And I've already set up my limit orders in this range. And so I don't have a crystal ball. I have no guarantee that we will pull back that far. But this is where I will take large risk and enter into a swing trade again. If we remain going choppy, I'm going to leave it alone. If it comes down and hits my targets, well, then I'm going to buy and own it. And I will still be in risk because there's always the fear that it could go lower. And there's plenty of people that are saying they'll buy at 80. My target is 112 to 109. You know, last time my targets were 96 and 94. We went as low as 90. And so, yes, we could actually break beneath this channel. We could go lower than 109. We could actually go 103 to 106. But I'm going to be taking positions. My first position is going to be at 112. And it's going to be additional positions beneath that until I buy up this zone with the anticipation that we will recover back over it and begin to move back up. Now, the other thing that I want to show you guys is that we do have an inverse head and shoulders pattern on this chart potentially forming. And if we come back and hit this zone and we remain within our channel, then we're in a very bullish stance. And again, this massive distance that you see here from the neckline to the top of the head would be the expected move if we were to break above this channel. And so let's take a look at what that would be. So if we did get a breakout of this channel, a breakout above this 128 level, which is now where the neckline is going to end up being, you're looking at it being around $167, which I think is very, very possible. I want to remind you guys that I will use a stop loss. I will notify people in the Stocks with Josh Discord when I place it after I'm in my full position. I am telling you guys in advance that I'm still bullish on NVIDIA. I got out of it correctly yesterday before the crash. I'm not in it right now except for my long-term portfolio. I've got shares there that I've been buying and I'm not going to sell until I retire. But in my swing account, I'm bullish, but I'm waiting for it to come back to the levels I gave you today. You've gotten my trade plan in advance. Hit that like and subscribe and you can find out how it all turns out. I'm expecting it to go well, but again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I think NVIDIA is going to remain an important company. And I believe that the other two companies that I have a high interest in, three other companies, Amazon, Meta, and Tesla, but I'm waiting for the right prices because the market did confirm today getting rejected at a bunch of levels that had just been support. Okay, so these levels had just been support. We fell beneath them. We moved back up to them. We got rejected. We moved down. That's a confirmation that we got a little bit more pain ahead of us in big tech. Got to keep an eye on IWM and TNA small cap plays because they did pretty well today. They weren't hurting the way that some of other big tech companies were hurting today. So I'm going to be talking more about those in the days to come as well. Appreciate you joining me. Get prepared for the 3K to 10K challenge in the Stocks with Josh Discord. I'll see you guys over there. Peace and blessings. Like and subscribe. Take care. Talk to you later.
All right, J.D. Vance there in Pennsylvania earlier today. Let's go out live right now to Bedminster, where you have Donald Trump coming to the podium for his news conference.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to see you. We have a lot of interesting things to talk about, and we have some very specific things. So we'll take our time. We have plenty of time. I think you have plenty of time. I hope you like the weather. It's very nice. Nice place. Nice location. And I do thank you for being here. And we don't have very much heat, so I'd say it's perfect weather for this. The rain is not imminent, based on the fact that there are no clouds. So it's really nice. It's really nice. And let's go over some big facts and some very substantial truths about where we stand as a country, because we're a failing nation because of the way it's been run for the last 3.5 years. We're a failing nation. People are coming into our country by the millions and millions and millions. We have no idea who they are or where they come from. But we're also a failing economy. Kamala Harris is a radical California liberal who broke the economy, broke the border, and broke the world, frankly. Very destructive to the entire world, because as we go, oftentimes the world goes. She destroys everything she touches, and if she wins, your finances and your country will never recover. You're never going to recover. A radical left person wants to put price controls all over the place, which will end up driving up your prices, not down your prices. Harris has just declared that tackling inflation will be a day one priority for her. It's going to be day one. But day one, really, for Kamala was 3.5 years ago. Where has she been? And why hasn't she done it? Why hasn't she done it? I hear her complaining all the time. She was the border czar, but she didn't do anything. The worst border czar in history. There's never been a border czar so bad. She's been unbelievable in terms of her badness to some of our allies, some of our great allies. You know who I'm talking about. Here is the record of economic calamity that Kamala is desperate for voters to ignore. She cast the tie-breaking votes that caused record inflation. She cast the votes. She's trying to blame Biden, as you know. So it was Biden, but I'm going to do a better job. But it was her. And if she wants to do a better job, she's still got 5 months left, right? But she can't do a better job because she doesn't know how to. And she's of a place in life where she wouldn't know what a better job is. Going to destroy our country, and as a result of Kamala's inflation price hikes, it cost a typical household a total of $28,000. These are numbers coming from government. They're not coming from me. $28,000 she's cost a typical household. Kamala's inflation nightmare continues to cost the average American family $1,100 every single month. $1,100. Again, government numbers. You're paying $148 more a month on food. It's every month. Average family, because Kamala and her ideas, and Joe Biden too. I mentioned him, but he's sort of gonzo. It all started with the debate. I should have been a little bit easy. Somebody said your debate performance was horrible. I said, why? Because you forced him out of government. But I believe she'll be just as bad. I believe she's maybe in many ways going to be worse, because he wasn't really a radical left. But she is. She's real. He wasn't real. So I think she's going to be, in many ways, easier to beat than Joe Biden. What they did to him was disgraceful, by the way. And it really is a threat to democracy. It was a coup by people that wanted him out. And they didn't do not the way they're supposed to do it. $129 more on energy and $241 more. This is all per month on rent. So you have that, $148, $129, $241, and then many other increases. You add it all up, it's thousands and thousands of dollars that she and he have cost people. The cost of a typical monthly mortgage has doubled since I left office, and that number was about 3 months old from government, and now it's tripled. We had mortgage rates at around 2%, close to 2%, and they're now at 10%, and you can't get a mortgage. So that means it's a lot higher than 10%. I guess it is whatever they want to give over the money, and that's a lot more than 10%. So when you think about double, they've actually quadrupled or more than that. Think of that, quadrupled. which really kills the American dream for young people. Young people are being devastated by what they've done to our country. Grocery prices have skyrocketed. Cereals are up 26%. Bread is up 24%. Butter is up 37%. Baby formula is up 30%. Flour is up 38%. And eggs are up 46%. And many items are up at much higher rates than that. Now Kamala is reportedly proposing communist price controls. She wants price controls. And if they worked, I'd go along with it too, but they don't work. They actually have the exact opposite impact and effect. But it leads to food shortages, rationing, hunger, dramatically more inflation. Their Inflation Reduction Act, by the way, was a disaster. It's what caused the inflation. Their Inflation Reduction Act was a con job. They actually admitted that it wasn't really for inflation that they did it. They don't know why they did it, but they named it the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a very nice name. Got approved based on that. Unfortunately, people didn't understand it. I understood it. I said that's going to cause tremendous inflation, and it did, among other things like energy. She's running on the Maduro plan. We call it the Maduro plan, like something straight out of Venezuela or the Soviet Union. This announcement is an admission that her economic policies have totally failed and caused really a catastrophe for our country, and beyond that, a catastrophe in the world. A little bit unrelated, but not totally unrelated. We have wars breaking out in the Middle East. We have the horrible war going on with Ukraine and Russia. All these things would have never happened if I was president. Would have never, ever happened. And they didn't happen. Since Harris took office, car insurance is up 55%, and they just announced it's going to be substantially higher than that within the next week. They expect big increases in car insurance. It's out of control, and insurance generally. Thanks to Kamala's war on American energy, electricity prices are up 32%. Gasoline prices are up 50% and going higher. Meanwhile, real incomes are down by over $2,000 a year. So the incomes for people are down $2,000 on average a year, government numbers. The typical American has seen a 4% pay cut under Kamala and Biden. Crooked Joe Biden. Credit card debt has exploded by 50% under Harris to a record high. It's now at a record high. It's never been anywhere close. Since March, and by the way, people are going to have to start paying that, and it's not going to be a pretty sight for the next period of time. It could be a substantial time. Since March of 2022, the average middle-class household has lost $33,000 in wealth. How about that? $33,000. That's average. In July alone, 350,000 people were added to the unemployment rolls. It's a lot of people. 350,000 people added to the unemployment rolls. And think of that. That's in 1 month. That's in July. Virtually 100% of the net job creation in the last year has gone to migrants. You know that? Most of the job creation has gone to migrants. In fact, I've heard that substantially more than beyond the number of 100%. It's a much higher number than that, but the government hasn't caught up with that yet. But virtually right now, as of the time they did this, virtually 100% of the net job creation in the last year has gone to migrants. Harris gave work permits and Social Security numbers to more than 3 million illegal immigrants to steal jobs from Americans. So think of that. And, you know, they're having a lot of problems with Social Security. I'm going to be the one to save Social Security, but they're having a lot of problems with Social Security because under their system of putting all of these people into it, it's going to blow up and fail. If she's elected, Social Security will fail. It'll be a blow up like you've never seen before. It'll be a bankruptcy of the entire system, probably the nation itself. You don't have to imagine what a Kamala Harris presidency would be because you're living through that nightmare right now, and it is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And you're going to stop inflation, but we're going to have a crash, and we're going to have a crash like a 1929 crash if she gets in. You saw a gentleman yesterday who got up, one of the top analysts in the world, frankly, and said that if Trump isn't elected, he predicts, and he's predicting you have a stock market crash like 1929. He also said the only time and the only reason the stock market has gone up, even though it had some bad moments recently. But I think we'll take a substantial lead. You saw the polls come out today. We're leading in most of the polls, but you'll have that. I have a lot of friends over there. So. I don't think they're reporters, however, are they? This was supposed to be for reporters. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. When I left office, I handed Kamala and crooked Joe Biden a surging economy with no inflation. The 30-year mortgage rate was around 2%. Gasoline had reached $1.87 a gallon. We actually had many months where it was lower than that. But we hit 187, which was a perfect place, an absolutely beautiful number. Real income surged by more than $4,200 a year when I was president. Harris and Biden blew it all up. If Kamala wins the election, the worst is yet to come. You'll have a real problem in the future because people don't respect her in the world. People don't respect her in the economy. Economists are laughing. They can't even believe this is happening to our country. And she wants to change a free enterprise type country into a communist type country. That's what she knows. She's considered far more radical than Bernie Sanders. That's all you have to know. Far more radical. And she picked somebody that's far more radical than Bernie Sanders. He approved a bill recently, tampons in boys' bathrooms. He wants tampons in boys' bathrooms. It's terrible. It's terrible. But that's the person that she picked. Surprising pick to me. I was shocked. He's also got one of the worst run states. Many people are leaving the state, sixth most. And from her state, Francisco, she destroyed, as the Attorney General, she destroyed California along with Gavin Newsom. And San Francisco, you know, was a great city 15 years ago. Now it's considered almost unlivable. You can't live there. And what they've done to that great state with the beautiful weather like this weather, they have this weather all the time. And they have the ocean, they have the sun, they have everything good. But what they've done to it is a shame. And she's going to do the same thing to our country. It was the policies. They had a recent article, and I didn't know this, but you're allowed to rob a store as long as it's not more than $950. Has everyone ever heard of that? You can rob a store, and you have these thieves going into stores with calculators calculating how much it is. Because if it's less than $950, they can rob it and not get charged. That was her that did that. Harris is campaigning on the largest tax increase in American history, including ending the Trump tax cuts, one of the largest tax cuts ever in our country's history, and working with families, a gigantic capital gains tax hike they want, and a new wealth confiscation tax. It's called wealth confiscation tax, which isn't going to make all of her supporters, you know, she's got some supporters that are wealthy people, because they're stupid people, but they're wealthy people. She said that a 70 to 80% tax rate is, quote, a bold idea that should be discussed and studied. 70 to 80%. She co-sponsored legislation to abolish very popular private health insurance, which 150 Americans rely on, dumping everyone onto inferior socialist government-run healthcare systems with rationing and deadly wait times while massively raising your taxes. She wants to take away your private health care. There are many people in this country who spend a lot of money on private health care. It's the best health care in the world, by the way. But they want to do it. They worked hard to make money, and they want to do it. Under her, you're not going to have private health care plans anymore. And you can be a wealthy person or a middle-income person, and you want to spend on a really good plan, better than a government plan could be, far better. And you're not going to be allowed. You're all going to be thrown into a communist system. It's a communist system. You're going to be thrown into a system where everybody gets health care. You wait for your doctor like 10 months, 12 months, 11 months. You're going to see some of these plans, how they work in other countries. It's disgraceful. So private health care is gone. She wants it out. Now, she could change on that, and she might change on that. She's changed on everything, but I said, why are you changing? I actually was asking somebody that knows her, why is she changing? She had these policies and ideas for years and years and years and very solid on them. All you have to do is go back and look at your tapes, which many have been discarded because they don't want, discarded by the fake news, because they don't want people to see what she said just a year ago and 2 years ago. I've never seen anything like it. Even my statement on waiters, waitresses, caddies, a lot of great people, people that drive cars, no tax on tips. All of a sudden, out of the blue, she comes out. That was months ago I said that. And she came out and she said, no tax on tips. She could have at least said, you know, President Trump had some great ideas, but one of the ideas was no tax on tips. I think it would have been nice, and people would have accepted that. But she just came out like it was hers, and she never had. In fact, just the opposite. The IRS is all set up to really go after people that make tips. And they passed legislation and signed executive orders making
That was super interesting!
You stand in my
Formation! Happiness to one and all! I send you my love! Get ready!
No way! A powerful foe has appeared! As expected!
Feel the power of love!
Looking good! That was incredible! You managed to beat the Great Ape! Wow! I'm on the edge of my seat!
Look how hard they're fighting! Cool and amazing! I'll go down low!
Believe it.
Nice job! You broke through the God of Destruction!
I am a winner!
You did it! You broke through all their gods of destruction! Now, break the dragon shell and go get the Dragon Balls!
Ha! Imbecile. Ha!
Fight like you mean it.